Hello, welcome to Talk of the Town. I am your host, Abby on the Avenue, Marketing Director for Appleton Downtown Incorporated. Talk of the Town is a podcast where we shine a spotlight on the people, places, and passion in our community. Each episode, we engage in meaningful conversations with community ambassadors, local business owners, as they share their stories about what makes our district thrive. Whether you're a history buff, foodie, music lover, or something in between, there's something here for everyone. Join us as we uncover the stories of what makes Downtown Appleton one great place. I am excited to have two wonderful guests joining me on the podcast today. They work for an organization whose vision is to empower children, engage parents, and energize their community throughout intergenerational play-based learning. They see over 120,000 visitors annually and have over 30,000 square feet of exhibit space for you to discover. Please help me welcome our guests from the Building for Kids Children's Museum, Oliver Zorno and Casie Holdcroft.
Thanks for having us.
Super excited to be here, Abby.
Yes, thank you for coming on. So before we dive in deeper to talk about all of the great things at the Building for Kids, why don't you have you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm Oliver Zorno, and I've been working at the Building for Kids for 14 of the last 19 years. So I've been there for quite a while. And my history with the Building for Kids goes back even earlier. I happened to be one of the first 50,000 visitors in our first 10 weeks in 1992 as a small child.
And I'm Casie Holdcroft. I'm the VP of Design and Communications at the Building for Kids. I have been there for about 5.5 years at this point. And I also came as a kid to the Building for Kids in the early 2000s.
Wow, that is awesome. I love that. Some of the firsts. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Building for Kids Children's Museum.
Yeah, so many people don't realize, but the Building for Kids Children's Museum was founded in 1992. The effort was spearheaded by two mutual fund executives, Rochelle Lamb and Paula Meyer, who had been recruited to Appleton to work for what was then AAL and Secura. And they saw some changes happening in downtown Appleton at that time. And with the closing of the Praying East department store, there was a concern to make sure that we continued to make sure that downtown was a place where families felt accessible and that they felt invited to be in. And so the creation of a children's museum was a great opportunity for that. Their vision grew and grew, and quickly we became, in 1992, by far the largest children's museum in the state of Wisconsin. And today we continue to be one of the largest children's museums in the state, in a state that has the highest concentration of children's museums in the country.
Wow. That is awesome. I did not know that. Love that. All right. So now that we know a little bit about the history of the Children's Museum, why don't you guys describe what a visitor can expect, if they've never been there before? What's it like when you walk in those doors?
The Building for Kids is 2 floors and, like you said, over 30,000 square feet of exhibit space. One of the exciting things about our space is that it's intentionally designed for intergenerational play. And so kids and their grown-ups can all come in. We not only welcome grown-ups to play, but encourage it. If they want to climb up in our huge treehouse, they are more than welcome to do so. And I think that's one of the things that makes us very unique is it gives opportunities for play, certainly, but also tons of memory making and whole family fun. And so whether that's members who can come as often as they want throughout the whole year, or someone who comes just for a day, admission is good the whole day. So we've seen lots of people who come for a couple hours in the morning. Maybe they go downtown to a restaurant for lunch and then they come back and play more in the afternoon. So it can be really whole family, whole day fun.
Yes, I myself as an adult have gone to the Building for Kids. I got some sneaky after hours access when I was doing a video shoot, and I was having a great time. Let me tell you, I was all over the place, having so much fun. As someone who doesn't have kids, I haven't, really had the time to just go in and enjoy it. So as I was looking around, I was having such a good time and maybe not paying super close attention to the actual video shoot. Sorry to Brandon, our videographer, but I was just so amazed. I was so distracted by all the amazing things.
Tons of amazing things. And as Casie was mentioning, it's really geared for all ages. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in the museum that a child can do that a grown-up can't do.
Yes.
As long as they're willing to play. Mm-hmm. And Abby, you don't have to sneak in. We have a Building for Grown-ups series.
You do.
Of adult nights at the museum.
Yes.
That are just for for adults 21 plus. And those are a ton of fun and opportunities for us all to reconnect with playful spirits that we have.
Yes. Connect your inner child. Yes. I do love those. And I keep meaning to get to one, but I just love that I was super sneaky, quote unquote. But yes, definitely check those out if you're like me and want to check them out and, maybe don't have any kids to attend with you. So as we're talking about the things that you can discover, at the museum, what are some of those big exhibits that you currently have? I know that there are some that are super popular, but, maybe some that are newer. So kind of give people a glimpse into some of those and what they can expect.
Absolutely. So like we said, we have a ton of exhibits at the building for kids, and I think it really depends on the person, what their favorite is. We're to the point in our history where we've had multi-generations of families come. So kids who played in the 90s are now bringing their kids. So they love all of our nostalgic exhibits, things like the Amazing Heart Slide that was built in 1994, or maybe our fire truck or crane, some of those memories that they can connect with. In the last 2 years, we've basically renovated our whole first floor. And so we have tons of new stuff if families haven't come to visit recently that they could explore. For example, in the Lillis branch, sponsored by Fox Communities, we actually have a working drive-through tube, which is, I think, everyone's favorite part of going to a credit union.
Yes.
So that's a really exciting one that's new for us. We opened the lab, sponsored by Amcor, on the first floor recently, which is an opportunity for kids to come in and ask, think, learn, and share, work through the scientific method on a whole slew of different topics. And then we have things like Food to Grow on our first floor, sponsored by Children's Wisconsin. And that's an opportunity to go in and think about the whole food system, all the way from the farm to a farmer's market to a food pantry to the kitchen. And so there's lots to explore on the first floor.
Yeah, and I guess I'll keep rounding out the tour of the museum. On the second floor.
I'm on a visual tour. Yes. I can just feel myself walking through.
There are some of those nostalgic exhibits, those exhibits I played on as a child, and I love the fact that my kids are playing on them, and look forward to making sure that those exhibits continue to be enhanced so that my grandchildren will play on those exhibits. But we also have other exhibits like Move It, which is sponsored by ASCO, right here in the building. And that exhibit is one of our most broadly popular in the ages because it's really well designed to pull everyone into the play pattern. Even the reluctant folks end up throwing a ball in a basket to get it up to the hopper.
That was definitely one I was playing with a lot when I was there, just watching everywhere that it would go. It was just so cute.
Yeah. Our studio on the second floor also, it acts like the lab. It gives that opportunity for kids and their grown-ups to engage in a variety of art forms, whether they're visual or performing arts. We have a resident musician. We have opportunities for free creation as well as our educator-led activities in there. And then Babies and Toddlers Around the World, which is a partnership with Kimberly Clark and Huggies and Pull-Ups. And that exhibit is focused on those milestones from 0 to 3. And kids from 0 to 3 and their families have that opportunity to explore that space and support their development. But also it holds host to a number of our programs.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's cool how you talked about, there's a lot of those exhibits that like you said, were around since the 90s, but also some that have popped up, within the last couple of years. So it's nice for people to know that there are some of those, tried and true exhibits, but you guys are always, making changes, adding new things and new experiences for those that, have been coming for a long time or come very frequently. There are new things for children to experience, but also some of those things that, they can always expect while they're there too. Yeah. So as we're kind of going beyond the exhibits, Oliver, you touched on this a little bit. There are a lot of great programs and special events, daily activities, camps. I mean, so many other things that you can do at the building for kids while you're there outside of the exhibit. So let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I did mention the programs related to that happen within our babies and toddlers space, and that's host to our early childhood continuum. From our Welcome Baby program, which offers a free 18-month membership to every person who has their first child throughout our community. They can come and participate in our Welcome Baby programs, and there's a connecting event and a play group. And that really, it helps parents connect with others on the similar life journey. And people start participating in that prenatally. There's so many couples that are expecting their first child, and they're looking for that opportunity to connect with people who are doing the same thing.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, my friend group didn't all have kids at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so being able to reconnect or build and establish relationships that can support you in that next journey is really important. And so that goes, the Welcome Baby program goes through the first 18 months of the child's life. And then we pick right up with our Early Explorers program, which is a caregiver child program. And that is from 18 months to about 3 years old. And then we go to our Junior Explorers, which is incredibly popular. But it's a free drop-off 90-minute care program for 3 and 4-year-olds. And it's all about social emotional learning, child-directed play, and school readiness is what we're doing there. And so we're able to see all of these little 3 and 4-year-olds running around in, I don't know, basketball jerseys, but they're engaged in true child-directed play. We follow a process we call Plan, Play, Share, where these kids come in and they work with our educators and they plan their day. They say, this is what I want to do today. This is the play pattern I want to engage in. They go and do it. Sometimes they actually do it. Sometimes they do something different. But then they get together as a group again and they learn about those communication skills and being able to reflect on what did they do and how did I share with my friends what I did. And it's a really powerful program that we're seeing tremendous results for kids in being able to help prepare them for those next steps into the formal education system.
And in addition to the programs that Oliver mentioned, we also have camps. We do both after-school camps and summer camps. And we're able to bring in lots of community partners to help us bring those camps to life, bring in all of the local experts from photographers to chefs to musicians and scientists and all the above to help give kids a broad range of experiences that they can explore. And on top of that, all of those programs, we also do daily activities in the museum every day. And so when you come, you might experience one thing one day, and then the next day it's something completely different. And so each visit should be very unique when you come to visit the building for kids.
I do want to add just real quickly on the programs piece is that something that growing up in Appleton, I thought everybody had a children's museum like this. And it's not just our exhibits that set the building for kids apart. It is these programs. I'll say in our summer camp program this year, the entire summer, we have a couple of kids driving up from Beaver Dam every day to participate in our programs.
Wow.
And a lot of times people get sort of pigeonholed on the ages that is appropriate for the building for kids. And we really are that sort of multi-generational space. We have kids as young as 4 years old in our camps, and we have kids as old as 5th grade. And then beyond the 5th grade, we this year layered in this youth leadership opportunity for middle and high school students who are earning school credit and career-based learning opportunities by helping lead and mentor within these camps, as well as we have these weekly lunch and learn opportunities for those emerging leaders to learn from folks in the community that are doing important work as well.
Wow. There's so many amazing things, like just beyond, I mean, it's a great place to come and play. Don't get me wrong, but it is so much more than that, you're supporting a lot of those fundamentals for many years of life.
Yeah. There's much more than meets the eye at the Building for Kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're learning about it today, which is great. So as we're talking about all the things that are kind of going on at the Building for Kids, is there anything new on the horizon that we should be on the lookout for?
We can't give out all the details yet, but we are going to be expanding by about 1,000 square feet on our first floor in 2026. So we will have a completely brand new, amazing exhibit that we're in the process of designing right now. We're working with some new partners to bring it to life. And so that'll be something really exciting to look for in the first half of 2026.
Guys, my jaw's on the floor. You can't see me right now, but this is breaking news.
It's breaking. You heard it here first.
That is awesome. That is very, very exciting. Well, we can't wait to hear more about that. So everybody make sure you stay tuned. Follow the Building for Kids for updates on that. But I mean, now we're going to say 31,000 square feet. I mean, it already says over 30,000, so I suppose that counts. But yes, it
isn't 31 yet. So, I mean,
yeah. So it's very exciting. Well, I'm so glad that, there's always, like I said earlier, so many new things that are coming along and the opportunities for expansion and for even more opportunities for kids to come and play and learn and do all of the great things. So this might be a tough question for you guys. And I'm sure you saw it and you're like, how am I supposed to answer this question? But, what is your favorite part or some of your favorite parts, about the museum, whether it's a specific exhibit or program, just something really unique that you pride yourselves on?
This is really such a tough question. I did look ahead and I was a little concerned about it.
She's like, come on, Abby.
Yeah. Well, I love my job so much. So it's hard to pick one of the things. I'll go a little bit broad. I'll cheat and go general.
That's all right. I would do the same.
But one of my favorite things about the Building for Kids is how, what Oliver was saying, there's so much more than meets the eye. And it even goes into, we are certainly a fun place to come and play. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely true. But beyond that, there's so much happening even underneath the surface, and the subtle power of play that's happening every single day in our museum is incredible to watch. We've done various research studies that show how important play is to a child and their childhood and their opportunities that come up in the future as well. We believe so strongly in what we do at the Building for Kids that we have started an initiative called Play-Based Community, which is where we take all of our expertise and the ability that we have to create immersive play-based learning environments at the museum, and we're taking that to other places in the community as well. So other organizations or partners that we have in the community can come to us and say that they want help building a play-based learning environment for their space too. And so we're able to come and share that with the community because we truly want a play-based community for everyone in the area. And that's one of my favorite things that is happening at the moment.
I can't answer this question, so I'm going to answer other questions. I don't know that I'm legally allowed to answer that
Oliver's
question.
cheating. It's all right.
I'm cheating worse than Casie, but I'm going to share that, I think one of the absolutely magical things about the Building for Kids and the opportunity that I have to be there is hearing the stories. Not a month goes by where I don't have an adult come up to me and talk to me about how their experience at the Children's Museum ties directly to what they're doing now, and how sometimes the Building for Kids, Fox Cities Children's Museum, was the first organization that acknowledged their talent, their interest, their passion throughout their life. Mm-hmm. Whether it was, giving out an award for a story they wrote, and now they're a professional writer, or as simple as it gave them the opportunity to connect and build a relationship that has carried them through their entire life. And so those anecdotes, right, that I get to hear from adults are amazing. Now I've worked at the museum long enough that there are children that I facilitated their birthday party, or that are now bringing their kids, and seeing how that transmission of this very special place happens in our community, generation to generation. That's the fabric that holds our community together, is those intergenerational relationships. And so getting to see those every single day and watch them build over the years is the magic of being at the Building for Kids. I'd say a favorite part of how we do our work is what Casie brought up about research. I was doing a tour recently, and it was brought up how vulnerable that must be as an organization to build something like a new exhibit and then subject yourself to a rigorous academic research process to determine if it actually did what you said it was going to do. And I take that for granted at the Building for Kids, but we do it all the time. Our Food to Grow exhibit that opened 2 years ago, we've the last 2 years been working with nutritional anthropologists from Lawrence to evaluate, are we really expanding the knowledge, skills, and attitudes around the variety of foods that kids are consuming? And so we're open to that feedback and how to do better. With our after school program, we did a 2-year study where we took about a couple hundred kids. We broke them into 3 groups. One group just went to school. One group went to school and went to the Boys and Girls Club after school. The other group did that and then came to the museum once a week. The museum enrichment, we followed these kids from kindergarten to the 3rd grade for 2 years. The museum enrichment group started with the lowest social self-confidence, ended with the highest. The museum enrichment group saw the greatest improvement in math, reading, and science report card grades. So we know that this intervention is impactful for kids in their academic achievement, their social self-confidence, and we're able to then use that information to design future programming to make sure we're continuing to make that impact. And most organizations don't do that. They come up with a great logic model, but I've always taken it for granted that we did that, but it was actually on a tour today that someone brought up to me about how remarkable that is, that an organization is willing to subject itself to that.
I mean, that's a lot. That's very intense, to put it bluntly. Like all the things that need to happen and that are, it's not just, an exhibit comes up and it's, it's there and you see kids playing on it and you're like, great, that did well. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes to ensure that it really is going above and beyond, and it is, shaping children foundationally.
Yeah. Supporting the future of our community.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're talking a little bit about that research, and I kind of just mentioned this, but when somebody comes up with an idea or when you're looking to do a new exhibit, how does that happen? What does that process look like?
Well, it's great timing because we're in the process of one right now with the new space. We have a framework for play and learning that really is at the core of what we are doing as an organization, whether that be new programs that we're bringing in or new exhibits. And so everything that we do, we take back to that framework to make sure that are we actually doing work that is supporting our mission, supporting where we want to go. And so that is a really good foundation for us to work from. And then it really leans into a lot of community support, making sure that the place and the space and the programs that we're building are authentic to our community, that they're supporting child-directed play and intergenerational opportunities for the whole family. And so that's kind of the basis of how we get started on a project.
Yeah. And I mean, I think people assume that it's like, oh, cool, a castle exhibit. So you're going to do a castle exhibit and you're going to come up with some creative ideas with castles. That is totally part of the process, right? But it is so much more than that. And it takes years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to put together one of these exhibits that's going to last at least 10 years in our space. If you think about a 10-year run of an exhibit, which is typically what we build for, things like the heart slide, the crane, those things 30 years running. But we built for 10 years at least. That's over 1 million kids and their families trying to destroy it during its lifespan and benefiting from it. And so it's really got to be built in a way that is you have to think through everything. What behaviors is this space going to inspire? And how is this space going to be resilient as those play patterns emerge? And how are we achieving our goals and building that sort of stronger future for all of our families?
Yes. Showing the magic that's there, and just that's an interesting point of thinking about how the kids are going to interact with it and how they're, what they're going to do with it. I don't currently have any kids, but I have a nephew who's about to turn 3, and just watching him, play and explore with things has been so magical. And I have it on my list to have them come visit. They live over in La Crosse, and to come check out the Children's Museum. But just, watching the ways when you give them something, like how much they're going to enjoy it and how they're going to enjoy it. And for me, as someone who maybe doesn't have that experience, to be like, oh, that's definitely not what I thought was going to happen with that toy. But you know what? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So just thinking about that thought and research behind it, you kind of have to, step into the shoes of children of all ages when you're, thinking about that.
And another piece that we have been starting to do is focusing a lot on getting kid and family feedback in our exhibit design process as well. So we have a youth advisory group that meets, and it's an opportunity for us to ask people who will actually be playing on it or who just maybe very recently played on it, questions about what they're looking for, what they want in an exhibit, how they feel about it. And that's been something that we've included in this process with the new exhibit as well.
Isn't that like a really funny commercial or something where they put a bunch of kids at the table and they all have to test like a certain candy or cereal or something, and then you're like getting all their feedback, and that actually happens, people. We're seeing it here. We bring the kids in at the conference room and we get their opinions on the exhibits, and that's really cool. I love that. All right. So now we're going to dive into a little bit of talking about Downtown Appleton, because of course that is where, the Building for Kids is. That is the heart, of our podcast here. So more tough questions coming for you guys, I'm sure. But, what is one thing that you would want someone to remember about the Building for Kids after listening to this episode?
I think the key piece to think about is that the Building for Kids is more than meets the eye, and it's for everyone. There is not a person in this community that couldn't have a great time at the Building for Kids, whether it's a Building for Grownups program, whether you're an expecting first-time parent, or whether your kids are in middle and high school. There's opportunities to engage, and that there's an incredible value to being a member of the Building for Kids. Members visit differently than non-members. It's not a simple calculation of, I think I'm going to go 3 times this year, so this is how much it costs. It's really about the membership unlocks something. We see our members use the Building for Kids as a great stop after visiting the farm market for a half hour to cool off before drive home. It gives that opportunity for those pop-in visits to spend more time in a single exhibit and not feel like you have to hit the whole museum in the same day. So those values of membership are really strong, and I think are overlooked a lot when people first come to the museum. The other piece is that the Building for Kids is fortunate to have strong reciprocal relationships with museums across the state, across the country, and around the world. My wife and I actually had a membership to the Building for Kids before we had kids, because it also includes admission to the Field Museum in Chicago, or the Museum of Science and Industry, or the Milwaukee Public Museum. And these are great opportunities for anyone who's traveling regionally or all across the country to support our local museum while also engaging in those activities around the country.
And to build off of what Oliver was saying around the value of a membership at the Building for Kids or even just coming to visit, every experience at the Building for Kids is different. There's no 2 days that are the same. We were talking about all the exhibits that we've been updating. We bring in traveling exhibits. We have a traveling exhibit coming in September, and it'll be here through early winter called The Amazing Castle, which is probably where you got the castle reference earlier. But we're always trying to switch it up, do different things. We have different activities that our educators are leading every single day. And so visiting once a year, you're not going to get to experience everything that we have in store. Kids, as they grow, they access the Building for Kids differently too. A 2-year-old at the Building for Kids plays very differently than even a 3-year-old because they're growing so much during that stage. And so every single visit really is unique and different when you come. And I think sometimes people, especially adults who maybe see it through the same lens, they just don't notice that every single one is different to the kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up, the opportunity for membership and admission because, after hearing this, people are going to want to come and play. So there are definitely opportunities for you to become a member, or if you want to just come out, for the day, there are daily, rates that you can do as well. And I'm sure other ways to support the Building for Kids as well. So if you guys want to briefly touch on if there's another way that somebody, if they want to come in and support, how can they do that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So visits to the museum, we have our admission, but then also, the membership piece. And I want to share that the Building for Kids is really about making sure that every child, every family has access to the child-directed intergenerational play-based learning. We have robust access programs. Our access membership, our subsidized membership makes about 30% of our members. So almost a third of our members are not paying the advertised rate. There's scholarships that the generosity of our community helps support to make sure that families hit a price that matches their ability to pay. And so those pay what you can memberships are available and are only possible because of the contributions that individuals and corporations make in our community to help make sure that everyone has access. And so those are the main ways to support. Come play with us, sign up for a program, buy a ticket, or make a contribution to help make sure that others also have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So last question here, going back to, like I said, talking a little bit specifically about downtown. So in your opinion, what do you think makes downtown Appleton one great place?
I remember when I first started working at the Building for Kids, I had lots of family members who asked, what's it like to work in downtown Appleton? And one of the things that stood out to me the most was how much of a community it felt like in downtown Appleton, how much we partnered with other organizations. Within the first couple of weeks of working at the Building for Kids, I met so many different community partners. And I think that was one of the pieces that really stood out to me, is that we are working together to create a downtown that we want to live in and we want others to visit and work in and play in and all of those different things. And so I think that's one of the things that really stands out to me. I am an introvert by nature, so peopling isn't necessarily my strong point. But when I go on a walk downtown, which I do most days, I see a handful of people that I know whenever I go out on a walk, and I am stopping and I'm saying hi and I know these people. And I think that sense of community is one of the things that I absolutely love about working downtown.
I think it's the jingle. Downtown Appleton, one great place to live.
Are you going to make a jingle?
And play. Downtown is the destination. Experience the energy. No, seriously, it's the collaboration, right? It's the fact that there are old, new people who've been around in downtown for a very long time, people who are new to downtown, but there is this fabric or this web that is mapped across this geographic space that is really the heart of our whole community. And downtown, well, not an experience that everyone has every day. I am so grateful. I've built my entire life. When my wife and I moved back to Appleton, we said 10 blocks from Houdini Plaza is the maximum that we would be willing to live, because downtown is the place to be.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the episode today to help share the magic of the Building for Kids and all that there is to discover there and in downtown Appleton. You can find the Building for Kids on the corner of College Avenue and Appleton Street at 100 West College Avenue. Visit their website to plan your next visit at buildingforkids.org, and make sure to follow them on social media, Facebook and Instagram, for daily updates and to see what they've got coming up, because it sounds like they've got a lot of exciting things. Thank you so much for tuning in to Talk of the Town. We'll be back with more stories, more voices, and more reasons to love Downtown Appleton. Until next time, keep your ears open. You just might be hearing the next Talk of the Town. This episode is brought to you by J. Geiger Consulting, a consulting firm specializing in J.D. Edwards Solutions and proud sponsor of Appleton Downtown Incorporated. Special thanks to local songwriter Amelia Ford for creating original music just for this podcast.